Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Vox Vomitus. I am your host, Jennifer Ann Gordon, the author of the Kindle Award-winning novel Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent, as well as Pretty, Ugly, and the Hotel series. Joining me today, as always, is my Vox Vomitus vixen, Allison Martine, author of the Bourbon books, which includes Dibs Since September, Move on Melinda, and Climb the Salmon Ladder. Joining us today, we are very excited to have him here. He has been a friend and fan of our show since day one. Finally, the stars aligned. He had a book come out yesterday. We have the one, the only Terry Shepard, author of the Jessica Ramirez thrillers, including, as of yesterday, Chasing Karma. Welcome, Terry.
Hello, Terry.
Thank you.
You already have people saying hello.
The bucket list.
The bucket list. Good. Bucket list. I will say, Terry is a huge fan of our show, and he never gets to watch us live because this is his date night.
Yeah.
You're skipping date night for this?
Yeah. For 45 years, I've only missed about 6 Wednesdays. We stop everything at 5, and all my contracts in corporate life, I said I don't travel on Wednesdays, 5 o'clock. I become the guy that won her in the first place.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Maybe you should be the one writing romances instead of me. Like,
wow.
That's romances.
I will say, Terry, we're going to talk about the Jessica Ramirez thrillers, but I have to brag about you for a couple minutes. He and I took a writing session last summer, 2 summers ago. I don't even know. And you wrote like a very short but beautiful essay about the first time you saw your wife and what she was wearing. And I just remember I had tears in my eyes. I thought it was so romantic. And the way you talk about her, yeah, I agreed with Allison. I was like, you should be writing a little bit of romance. But instead, you've got Jessica Ramirez having a very difficult time of personal relationships.
Yeah. Well, people love it when you run your protagonist up a tree that they can't get down from, and then you start throwing hand grenades at them to try and knock them out. And I love writing myself into a corner in every chapter and then figure out how in the heck am I going to get out of this mess?
You like relationship hand grenades. Yeah, I mean, you do the worst to Jessica, not just in terms of things happening to her physically and mentally, but then emotionally too. So these are like all the hand grenades going her way, and I mean, it makes for good reading, but it's not exactly.
Yeah,
it's definitely rom-com that you're writing.
She's the challenge that she has is that she really has a strong moral compass and wants to do the right thing when everybody else is telling her not to. And that always leads to the adventure stuff. But it also puts her in a position, a lot of pain. And she's discovering the things that we all discover in life, that what we think the outcomes will be of our actions aren't necessarily what they are. So in Vega, she was thinking, I'm finally going to get rid of this bad killer. But when she does, she just feels empty. She understands that revenge isn't ever what you think it is. And, she's also a very strong person. So in her relationship with Michael Wright, the FBI guy, he's always, he's a traditional male and wants to protect her.
How you say that. Traditional.
And she's
not really a good thing in how he's behaving.
She doesn't want any part of it. Yeah, don't follow me. I know what I'm doing.
Don't follow me. Don't boss me around. Don't try to protect me. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not like your precious little dolly on a shelf. Like, let me make every bad choice I can possibly make.
She does. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
she has a sidekick who encourages her. So.
Yeah, she really kind of does. I mean, the two of them together are they're not really oil and water. It's more like oil and something combustible, like a flame.
Yeah.
That was the issue.
I kind of shipped them. Like, I was like, if she's not going to end up with Michael in the long run, because who knows? It's a whole series. I think she has a lot of natural chemistry with her partner.
Allie.
Yeah,
but she's not an Allison.
Yeah.
But close enough. Allie? Oh, not me.
One of the favorite scenes that was very fun for me to write was there's a big blow up at her family house when Michael basically insinuates himself into a situation with her there.
Yeah.
And she runs out, and Allie was no help. Allie keeps throwing like, gasoline on the fire during the conversation.
Oh, she really was. I have to say my favorite part of that scene, and this is a non-spoilery scene from Chasing Karma, is Michael is the perfect guy to impress her very traditional family, down to his absolutely perfect pronunciations of Spanish, of which poor Jessica is like, oh my God, did he learn these phrases and practice them?
Yeah.
And I was just laughing hysterically because I feel like we've all been on those dates or had those significant others that you're like, stop kissing my mom's ass.
Yeah.
Like, stop it. And don't
the
use
moment
perfect
in that scene that just floored me, that, and I don't even know where this stuff comes from. I mean, you guys, I'm sure it's the same way with you. A lot of this stuff just comes through you, is you get a real chance to see how much Jess and Allie care about each other. And Allie, of course, is a flaming, unrepentant, proud lesbian. And, she's always saying to Jess, look, if you just would open up your mind a little bit, we could have a really cool relationship.
I will say,
Jess realizes that.
Yeah, like maybe. I have a book that's out on Sub that I can't really talk about very much, but I do have two like female best friend characters. And I laughed during that part because there's a moment towards the beginning of my secret book where they look at each other and go, things would be so much better if we were lesbians. Like, it would just,
Yes.
we could share on rent. We could get a family cell phone plan. We get along more than we get along with other people.
It's if you can get past the gender stuff, relationships are relationships. And, they can last. It's just, we live in a world, there's a lot of judgmental people. And that's one of the reasons I love writing the Jess stories, because in the ensemble cast, I take a lot of non-traditional folks and put them in hero positions where they get to do really cool stuff that you wouldn't expect that those folks would be able to do. The guy who still gets the most mail is Joey, the medical examiner, Allison, in book 1, who's on the autism spectrum. And I base him on the son of a very good friend of mine who has Asperger's. And so I watched him grow up, and he was one of several people that I used as a technical consultant for that.
He's like, I'll tell you if this is correct or not.
Yeah. And he's great, I remember when he was 11, when AOL Messenger was still a thing, we would be up till 11 or midnight at night, every night, just talking back and forth about computers and stuff. And he's a great, great guy, a fantastic husband, great dad. And, but there is this social kind of barrier that they just can't act like we think they would be normal. Everything's in there. All the brains, all the heart is in there, but they can't translate it. And what you saw in Vega is that Joey just would sit there when these things would be going down, and the sheriff would finally ask him, okay, Joey, what's going on? And he would say, okay, that thing you're looking for, I have it right here. I told you the security of this place sucked, and you didn't believe me. So I took the thing home and said, when they came and stole it, they stole a copy I left around. So he's very smart.
Because you just left important stuff lying around, and you didn't listen to it.
Yeah. But
well,
it's
at least
the wonderful
do what
thing
I do,
about,
which is you hide the things that are important so that nobody gets them, but then you don't remember where they left them. That's my problem, because then it's like, oh, I've been it so well, I'll never find it.
I gotta do that in a story. That's a great plot point, Allison. Thank you. See, this has already been super helpful for me.
I'm just getting old, and then I hide things from my kids so that they don't get a hold of them. And then I'm like, I had this important thing. I don't know where it is. I don't even know what it is anymore.
Allison and I were chatting yesterday because I got a new computer, and I had to do that day-long process of going, what is my password for all of these different sites?
Right.
And basically having to reset my password for everything. And then, of course, it always pops up with like, you can't use a password you've already used. And I'm like,
good. If I would have known that. Mine do the same thing. But I know that part of it is some of them, I especially have it with my insurance company, which I know is also a bank, but I don't use any banking from them. And they require this ridiculous 5-step login every single time where I'm like, I just want to pay my bill. If somebody else really wants to pay my bill, please let them. If someone wants to hack this and go ahead and pay my insurance bill, they have carte blanche to pay my insurance bill whenever they want. But me, no, I can never do it. Every time.
See, this could work. We should just like take a transcript of this show and turn it into a story. That would be great. I've thought about that as I've listened to some of your banter back and forth and other shows. I'm thinking these two would be great buddy cops.
You need to have somebody then do the transcription of all of our bodily movements, because we've had guests come on who did not know that we are on video as well. Like they only have listened to us, so they don't know all the ridiculous things we're doing in front of the TV screen, if for lack of a better term, in front of the computer. And we're like, we're doing hand puppets. Did you get the hand puppets?
We do hand puppets. The time we have props. The time when I'm like, I do have to look at the computer screen, and I'm like, I can't see.
And Jennifer without her glasses is like,
yeah.
What's it say? And that's why I'm usually the one who has to read comments. Like Marie saying that we should be buddy cops. Yep, Marie, neither one of us should be anywhere near the criminal justice system.
I love Marie.
There's a reason I'm not a lawyer.
Is a fantastic writer. Oh my gosh. Marie's
she's been a guest on our show. She's spectacular.
We love you, Marie.
Her skills are
Dark
off
Obsessions.
the charts. Yeah, read Dark Obsessions, and then you won't sleep for a week, but it'll be totally worth it.
Marie,
that's not even my genre.
Last night. I was going to say, speaking of buddy cops, I had like one of those, Terry, I'm sure you do this. I know Allison has done it, like where you just get in your head and you're just like, writing is so daunting and hard and weird and I love it. And it's like midnight last night and I'm like literally looking up like criminal justice programs. And I'm like, should I become a detective?
I told you no.
I know.
No.
Allison's like, no, you just want to write about detectives.
No, you don't actually want to
become
go
one.
No.
And then in the morning I woke up and I was like, yeah, you're right. I don't want to actually be a police officer.
No.
At like the age of 40, blah, 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 in bad shape.
You're in better shape than I am. You could at least probably do the physical aspect where I'd be like, I hurt my back. I can't do this.
You guys should get
over the wall.
You need to have Shoshona Friedman on your show, SM Friedman. Because she was a PI before she became a writer, and she was a PI when she was young. That's not even her background. She didn't study to be that. She didn't study for law enforcement or anything. She just thought, well, maybe I should be a PI for a while. And,
how do you just stumble into that? Jessica Jones, get your blues and your camera.
She's like Jessica Jones.
A bad attitude. That's all you need.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
But she's another great writer. One of my faves. Yeah.
Terry, you write in other genres besides your Jessica Ramirez thrillers, but that seems like where you're the most passionate. You're very involved in like the crime writing community. Sorry. Terry's a very famous crime boss in Florida. No. So is like the crime writing community and the crime genre your favorite thing to read and write, or is it just because like the community's the coolest?
I really hate to make generalizations, but the crime people were the ones that kept telling me not to quit. And I would not be if it weren't for people like Marie and Donna Wilberg, and there's several others. They show up. It's like paranormal how they show up. They show up in my chat and say, community. How's it going? How's it going? Right when I'm getting to say, screw this, I'm done doing this. I'll just go back to showbiz. And they say, keep going. You can do this. You're a great writer. And I read it and I say, I think this sucks. And they say, no, it doesn't. You just keep going, keep going. No, and so that's, 3 books and 3 Jess short stories. Going to be 4. I got, I'm in an anthology. Jess appears in the, Dallas Sisters in Crimes Dallas anthology. Donna Wilberg's in that too. And then I'm just I'm working on another one for her that I got it. I'm actually this is a weird story, but I was part of the Moderna trial. So I was at a research facility for where they were looking over me every 30 days to see if I was going to die from this new shot. Yeah.
House Moderna for the win.
And so, I'm always trying to be friendly to the nurses and stuff, and they figured out what I do, and they read all the books, and they said, you should do a short story about somebody getting murdered in one of our facilities. So I
And we're
wrote
like,
one.
Okay.
You're like, what else
Yeah,
do you
but
need to tell me about what happens here during these trials? What are you putting in? I do have the vaccine, right? You're like, mm-hmm.
but yeah,
You have
I,
the
I,
special
I
murder
gotta send it
serum.
to her. I'm not sure that, I mean, the leadership at the place doesn't come out looking very good in this murder. So I'm thinking maybe I better not do that. So
We had a few months back, you probably watched the show. We had the incredible Simon Stevenson on the show, and he
yes.
wrote a book about a serial killer who worked in a hospital called Sometimes People Die. And we were just like, I never want to go to that hospital. And he was a doctor, and he's like, yeah, a lot of this is based on like
Yeah.
how things really are. And
You're
we're
like, Simon, were you the drug-addled, incompetent doctor? He's just like, just read the
No
book.
comment.
No
We're
comment.
glad that
No
you
comment.
right now and don't practice medicine currently in the state that I live. Thanks a lot, Simon.
So
What do you
Terry,
guys think of the? Go ahead.
No,
I have a question for you.
Go for it.
I was gonna say, I've watched and listened to so many of your shows. What do you think that authors that are really enjoying their work, and I'm not going to say successful because very few of us ever get to that point where we're Harlan Coben,
I know.
but
I'm like,
authors
what
that are
does
enjoying their
that
work, what do they
mean?
share in common? Yeah, what do they share in common?
Oh, I think there is, to me, like, I will say authors that I see having the best time. I'm going to name a couple of them: Josh Mallerman, Sean Cosby.
I was going to say Sean Cosby.
So those two already have in common hilarious, whiskey.
I was going to say booze.
Booze.
Music? I mean, I don't know. Sean's necessarily playing the music. Josh is often doing the music.
I think they have like an artist soul, and a lot of times I always we get a lot of these authors who, especially Sean, will say, I don't want to say he came from nothing, but he came from a background where he, like, nobody, I think they underestimated him.
Yeah.
And I think Josh Mallerman has a similar story where, like, you know, he talks about how he was like couch surfing and homeless in Manhattan and just like playing music and like trying to be a rock star. I know, doesn't that sound
like,
great?
That's the bad part? Wait.
I know. And he's another Detroit guy, so here we
go.
I
would say they have this appreciation that they are getting to live their dream and just really loving that they get to do this, and that people are reading and enjoying their work, and whatever accolades or movie deals or combination thereof they get, they aren't just like, oh great, now what's next? They're living in each moment and also then reflecting back, because I'll see them post on their timelines like, remember when that happened and I didn't know I'd get here and this was so amazing. So there's almost this kind of ability to pull back the camera and see the bigger picture rather than get stuck in the moment. Whereas Jennifer and I will be like 3 a.m. texting each other going, I am miserable because of X, Y, and Z of the current moment. And then it takes the other person to pull the camera back and say, you're not going to criminal justice school tonight, Jennifer.
I know.
It's so much fun to be a depressive. No. I love clinical depression. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing.
I know. I think that's what we all have in common here. Like medications.
Medication.
Meds.
You're like Moderna and Team Lexapro. You're not.
Yeah. I know we've all gotten the same vaccines. We probably have very similar diagnoses psychologically. No, and I think the authors who are having the best time are the ones who just never fall out of love with writing. And you know, and I love writing more than anything, but then there are days that I'm not as in love with it as I should be, and then I have to remind myself. And this is, you know, one of the reasons why we do the podcast is to constantly be talking to people and getting to share these, like, yeah, sometimes it sucks. But you know what doesn't, like, what would suck more is not writing.
Yeah. You know, I think, you know, another thing that, Jen, that you have in common with my family is that both my wife and my daughter have been ballroom dancers. And there is a moment that I see in them that I imagine in you when you've got the dance incorporated as part of you and you're performing and you kind of leave your body and your soul is above it, watching you do your thing, that it's just a zone of beauty.
And
there's an analog for that in writing. Yeah,
Yeah,
same
and
thing
when
in
we
writing.
get there in writers, like you said earlier, when you were just like, I don't know where these ideas come from. We've all been there where we're just writing and we're like, I don't know what's happening or why my character is doing this, but I'm going to follow them
Yeah.
Mhm.
down this rabbit hole.
And
And
sometimes
sometimes,
what it really pisses me off
sometimes
because
it's a
sometimes they
mess.
leave me, yeah, they leave me somewhere. Like in Captain, the second book, I wrote a fantastic end of the second act. Jessica's hanging from a helicopter. She realizes that she shot out the turbine. It's going to crash, and she's about 10 feet above the London Eye Ferris wheel. She's got one shot to shoot out the top of the gondola, and she lets go, right? And that's where the chapter ends. And then I'm thinking,
Then,
okay, I can't do anything more with this book. This is
I
it.
know.
Yeah,
And
It's
that
the
was
best
the
stuff
death
I've
of
ever written.
Jessica.
Yeah. So,
like
but
there's
that's when
literally
you have
only
friends.
down from there, like gravity bringing her down. That's it. There's nothing else you can do.
Yeah. 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 I
And
mean, but
I
that's, you find your friends and they tell you, you just keep talking to your fellow writers and something happens. Or you do what
exactly.
Doug
And
Lyle says to do, and that is you write through it, you write around it. You turn and you write something else. You drop
see,
the whole
I
story and
can't,
write something else.
I have a really hard time not being linear with my writing. So if I get to that moment where I'm like, crap, I'm stuck, I kind of have to like let that percolate for a while until all of a sudden it's 3 a.m. and you wake up and go,
You need
oh,
some drugs that make you ADD. That's what helps me, is that I can shift gears in a second.
Can I take drugs for ADD if I don't have ADD? Because I have those in my house too. They're not mine, but we have them.
I may have done those recreationally in the past.
You have never encouraged me to take any of other people's medications. Just
It's
for
been
fun.
a long time since I have recreationally done.
I will say that the antibiotics I was on after my C. diff, after my appendectomy, looked an awful lot like a medication I was giving to one of my kids. I'm like, let's make sure I get the right bottle for the right person because I don't need ADD meds, and this kid does not need antibiotics. So,
Yeah.
white
And
girl,
Jess is
thank God.
totally anti-drugs. I mean, she doesn't even want to take them when she needs them in the hospital. She just doesn't. She's
You
complaining
cough, why
about.
won't you take the medication?
Yeah. She says, you better give me something for constipation because I'm not putting up with this stuff.
I was going to say, I don't want to give any hint of a spoiler for Chasing Karma, but she does have some intricate and pretty intense hospitalization things. And yeah, she's just like, when can I get off the pain pills? And they're just like, you just
She
got
doesn't.
here.
Yeah. And she didn't feel good until she's in a bar with her shrink and she sees the guys that beat her up and goes and beats the crap out of them. That's when she starts to feel good again.
That's therapy, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's different
And then
kinds.
she's trying to understand why she likes it so much. And her shrink doesn't know how to help her. But that's part of it's not really a spoiler, but I mean, I was trying to figure out when I was constructing Karma, what could I possibly do to this woman to take everything away from her? Because she lost, in Vega, you hear that her father, she was an Olympic swimmer and her father wouldn't let her join the Olympic team. So she became a cop to piss him off. And
I mean, that's pretty
then
good.
she's in this
Pretty good
world.
to piss you off.
Yeah, well, but she goes in this world of misogynistical men that hate her. And so she's dealing with that every day. So I'm thinking about what else can I take away? I didn't want to kill off Allie because Allie's like the one I have to calm down because she could take over the store. I mean, she could take the story over. So I decided to take away her face and her memory. And she doesn't know who she is. And by a horrible accident, they put the wrong face on her. And so she doesn't even look like who she's supposed to be. And all she knows is she has one of the interesting pieces of research that I did for this is that I studied the 3 types of memory, and it's possible to lose, to have amnesia, but remember the stuff that you've been taught. So your reflexes are still good and all these habitual things that you know how to do. So she's in this bar fight.
Her
and
fighting
it's like,
still right
it's
there.
like Neo, Neo's sitting there making all the moves and watching this stuff go on right before him saying, what's happening? And she talks to her shrink and she says, how do I know how to do all this stuff? And the lady says, hey, I'm just glad you know.
So you bring up the shrink. This is something I mentioned to Allison. The shrink's name in this book is Assunta Sebastian, and Assunta Sebastian is a very good friend of mine, and also a good friend of yours. So when it was just like, Dr. Sebastian, and she's like, you can call me Assunta, I'm like, oh, Assunta. And I immediately texted Terry. I'm just like, Assunta is in your book? And
does Assunta know she's in your book?
Yeah, I had a contest. I said, name the villain. And 2 people tied. So they're both, Sandra Sullivan, who's another author, is one of them, and she's the doctor, and Assunta's the shrink. So I put them in there. But there's a lot of Easter eggs in there. I have several of my buddies from
lots of
life,
author friends and stuff.
Yeah,
in there. I've recognized the names. I'm just like, they're on my bookshelf.
Jim Latwell was like,
I know.
was an ex-boyfriend.
Yeah,
in the story.
Yeah, I loved that. It was just like, oh no, I guess he makes a ton of money now. Blah blah blah. Like it was just.
Yeah, he's super successful.
So I love. Are the Easter eggs just something that is in the Jessica Ramirez universe? Do you stick Easter eggs in because you write kids' books too?
Yeah, I mean I try and base my characters off of. I'm a white guy writing diversity, so I try and immerse myself in the lives of the people that I'm going to be turning into characters, and that's a lot more than just saying let's go have Starbucks together and talk about your life. For Jess, Tracy Ruiz, who's the person on whom Jess is based, is a longtime friend. And I've ridden along with her in the cop car. I've watched her do her thing.
How many times have you been shot at?
Well,
you're like
Terry's like, here's this one, and then over here.
And he's like, weirdly, none of those are on a police write-out.
Yeah. I mean, I've been riding with cops since I was in college. I mean, when I was a jock, I was working Saturday nights. I got off at midnight, and you're too wound up. So I'd go to my friends who worked at the police department, and we'd go to bars and bust ID guys and chase down drunk drivers and stuff until 3 a.m. when I came down. So I went out with the cops to try and come down from being on the air, and it's a relationship that's stuck ever since.
Have you ever thought about writing about being a DJ? Because, like, you're on my wavelength, Jennifer, because I have about a third of a book done entitled Top 40, which is the story of a kid who grows up as a DJ and what happens to him in his career between the 1960s and the 1980s. So he meets all of these famous people. Memoir?
There are
semi-autobiographical,
I would say that it's a lot biographical because all the stories that I tell in there are true. They've happened to either to me or to friends of mine. And, I get their permission and stuff, and I don't know whether it'll go anywhere. I'm on and off about it. I'm not quite sure where it's going to end. I know that in the 80s, when everything gets consolidated, the guy's going to get fired and have to reinvent himself, but I'm not sure how to make it super interesting yet. I mean, it's fun for people in the biz to read because you'd say, yeah, I remember that. I remember things like that happening to me.
How would readers go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you already have a title. Otherwise, I would have said the title is "Hang the DJ," and that's how it ends.
Could be, yes.
Songs in my head. Hang the DJ.
I was thinking Video Killed the Radio Star, but
that's a good one too. Hey, I mean, we're just trying to make this a thriller, and you're like, no, not this one. We're like, yes, this one too.
Well,
like, no.
Yeah, do you guys have soundtracks for your books? I mean, I have soundtracks for all the books that I write. Every single one of them, beginning to end. Yeah,
I do sometimes. Depending on like my hotel series, no, because I mean, yes,
laudanum dream
because it's just
really
like laudanum and just like the ghost of a baby crying in the background. But my husband is a classical guitarist, and so he made a soundtrack for those books.
Oh, nice! That's great.
Does he ever play them on his Twitch channel? I would listen to that if he did.
Oh my God, Roman! If you're listening to this right now, Mr. Producer,
he's producing our show.
Get back on your Twitch.
Hi, Roman.
Yes,
See,
Roman.
the comparison for me is that when I was in college, the thing to do with Wizard of Oz was to put Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd on and smoke about 3 joints and watch Wizard of Oz. And it supposedly, as the scene changed, the music changed. Yeah. And after 3 joints, everything lines up, so it doesn't matter.
My fingers line up.
Yeah.
Cool.
Fingers line up. Like, yeah, the planets line up.
Yep.
Not that I've ever done anything like that either recreationally, but
Yeah. But I never made it through the whole movie with Pink Floyd because I was always ordering pizza. About the second joint in, I wanted something to eat.
You're like,
like
the munchies
what
hit
would be
before the
better?
munchkins show up. And you're like,
The
this is no
munchies
longer
hit before
Whoa.
the munchkins.
Sorry.
Write
They're
that
not
down.
short. They're normal height. It's Dorothy that's too tall. What's wrong with her?
Dorothy the giant. Yeah.
Yeah, she's Cinderella. Yeah.
Look, we're 5'2". We would have been just fine with the munchkins. We're like, look, we can actually see over people's heads. Look at us, we're tall.
See,
That'll be
that's
fun.
I envy people that are short because you guys can travel. You can do airplanes. You can do buses. You can do all that stuff. I mean, it's
So I'll say
Yeah.
I'm
Anything.
you can travel. They allow you to travel. I am 5'2", except I have no waist at all, and I have the same length legs as my husband, who is
Oh.
5'11".
So you
So,
still don't have leg room anywhere
I
you
still
go.
don't have leg room.
yeah.
Those are great
You're-
for
you're
being a
Vera
dancer, but
Ellen.
not for-
That's what you
Yeah.
are. You're Vera Ellen
But
from
I-
White Christmas.
But I can like ball up on a chair because of the dancing flexibility. Well, what used
You
to
still
be
have
there.
that? Great.
No, not really. Yeah. No, not really. It's been a long pandemic, Terry.
Mhm. That part's true.
It's been a long pandemic. Yeah, Allison and I have become accountability partners, though, too, with not only our writing,
Hmm.
but as of this week, our working out and our stretching.
We are like, we are not
And that really
hibernating
worked.
bears anymore. We need
That
to not
works.
eat
Yeah.
potatoes. We can
I
eat
know.
I send my steps that I take to a guy in Texas every night at 11 p.m. So if I'm not at 10,000 by 9:30, I'm down on the treadmill knocking him out.
Get those steps in.
Yeah.
Well, I was
Embarrassing,
excited
very
because
effective.
I usually listen to audiobooks when I work out, which is not necessarily the most inspiring thing depending on what's happening. But I don't know if you guys saw on the Golden Globes last night that Natu Natu from RRR won like best original song, which I don't know if you've seen RRR, but it was my favorite movie from last year. That and Everything Everywhere All at Once. It is like it's like 3 hours long. So this is a movie you got to watch over several periods of time, but it is the most over the top, amazing musical extravaganza. People are throwing tigers at each other and it is just amazing. But there is like a dance battle in the middle of it. And that's the song that won. I did that on the elliptical this morning and just about died. So maybe that's not like a beginner level song. Someone who's like out of shape and it's just going, and I'm like, get me off. I might fall. But I finished it. And, you know, then just hurt.
I was glad to see that Short Round got an award. It's good to see him again.
Yes, he won. He
That's,
won, and it pretty much that whole movie, all the actors involved did really well, and I enjoyed seeing that so much. He came back
He looks
from
the
not acting
same.
just for that.
Yeah,
He's a grown up
he
now,
looks the
though.
same.
He's a grown up.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we've not aged at all.
That's true. It's
How does
weird.
that happen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's magic. That's it's because we're writers and we don't see the sun very often.
Oh,
So
that's
we the only light we get is from the laptop.
Well, and now that like I'm able to access all my medical records online, which I was doing to get back my medical stuff to go like, why am I in the hospital again? No one's really sure what's wrong with me. And it showed that I was like vitamin D deficient. I'm like, well, yeah, I stay inside. Of course I'm vitamin D deficient. That comes in gummies too. So
Yeah. Did you get the lights? My shrink told me to get the full spectrum lights for my
no,
office,
I don't
and
have
that-
special lights.
that helps.
Does that help with the lights? I didn't know if that would make a
I don't
difference.
know.
That you need like actual.
I don't know whether it's
Yeah.
psychosomatic or not. It helps me. I mean, I have an
yeah.
Alexa command to say turn on sunshine, and it's like the daylight. in
It's
here.
like,
Turn on sunshine. I love that. No, I think it does help because I know somebody else who has lights and she swears by them. But again, who knows?
Lights,
the only people I
exercise,
know who
and
have that have like pet iguanas. They're for the iguanas. They're not for people. Just like on their little
Yeah.
setting wrong. I would happily take one because I'm always cold. And living in
grow
SoCal and
lamps.
still being cold.
They're grow
yeah,
lamps.
I know. You're like happy little.
So Terry, I remember when you were writing Chasing Karma a while back, did you struggle at all during the writing process of this? Did it go, I want to say, wasn't it going in like one direction and then you were like, I don't know where it's going. I had to scrap it, start over. Did you have one of those really great writer moments where we're like, uh-oh.
Well, you know, the thing that was happening to me, and I don't know if this has happened to you, but the story wants to start someplace, but it isn't where it's supposed to start. So The story originally started for
Look,
me.
Allison's like, don't you
Yeah.
hate that?
Okay, I've had that actual conversation with several writers recently because I will admit I beta excessively, and certain friends are like, please don't stop. And others are like, you need to stop for your mental health because you are excessively betaing for people. And there are several people who I've had that problem with where they go, I just am not making this opening scene work. And the answer is, this is not the opening scene.
Because it's not the opening scene.
And that's the problem,
Right.
because you get it stuck in your head that the story starts there. But if the story actually shouldn't start there and there's no way to make it start there, then that's just not where it starts. But there's that mental block that you go, but this is how I envision it starting. And it's really hard to overcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, and I don't, I think one of the things that helps me is that I have zero ego connected to anything that I create. So I'm perfect for just about any editor out there. Because if somebody says this sucks, I'll say, okay, let's get rid of it.
You're like, kill all
Cut
the
it out.
darlings, kill everything I typed. Just give me a blank
Yeah.
copy. We'll try it again. That's fine.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't throw it away. I mean, I save it in Evernote because you never know when that scene might work somewhere else. But
Right.
the Karma originally started in Portland when the cops bust in on the dead woman in the story.
Okay.
There's a scene where the gal's dead. But I was thinking, I always think
she was
cinematically.
gruesomely described, by the way.
Yeah, I was trying to channel you, Jen. How did I do?
Really good. I will say,
Gross.
I was at New England Crime Bake the past 2 years, and 2 years ago, there was like a crime scene investigator there, of course, and she did a breakfast slideshow
Oh
of
my gosh.
corpses. And I was
Over
like,
breakfast?
I know, I'm like, why is this taking place when we're eating?
That's terrible planning. Because like back when
And
I
you-
was in law school, we did have forensic people come and talk to us and stuff to try to basically disabuse us of everything we've learned on TV and telling us all of that's nonsense, and to learn this before all the real cops start yelling at us out there. But
Yeah.
we were doing it in a lecture hall, not over breakfast. I mean,
Yeah,
like, then
it
it's
was like
Starbucks
technically
stuff.
right after breakfast, but I didn't go to breakfast.
And you
so I
know,
was like still
People
snacking.
love that. They love
They
sticking
get
it to you
some
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're having way too
Yeah.
much fun.
So, and the medical, I mean, the forensic person was just like, all right, so I'm sorry, everybody who ate eggs earlier, because this one looks like blah. And then like the big slide comes up and we're like, oh.
So I've never been to Crime Bake. Do they have an award for like nastiest, goriest scene? Because they should have that specialty award, like MTV Video Music Awards, where they have special
I
like
mean,
best kiss, enemies to lovers, all those. They should have that. Can I start giving away extra awards?
we can start giving extra awards away for our fake
Our
awards show,
Voxies.
the Voxies.
That we made up? And then Kelly Hitchcock's like, thank you, I accept. I'm like, all right, cool. It's a thing now.
Yeah, do you find when you watch movies that you're watching them as a creator and you don't enjoy them as a spectator anymore? I mean, I'm always thinking, okay, why did they pick this opening scene? And I have a grandson who's a Marvel guy, so I'll go to the Marvel movies with him, and they're all the same. None of them change.
Yeah.
But I go, okay, there's the end act one.
Well,
What's gonna happen in act two?
They do hit their beats pretty well.
They do. I don't do it so much with movies, but I have been realizing, because I've, my amazing agent, Paula Mounier, she said, read excessively in the genre that you are currently writing in. So I've read a lot of anywhere from thriller to domestic suspense to crime to police procedural to just mystery, locked room mysteries, cozy mysteries, everything for the past 2 years. And I will say, I'm really seeing the beats now. When the major thing happens, now I look down and it's like, and you did it in Chasing Karma, something amazing happened, and I look down, I'm like, it's page 100. Oh, exactly. And
that was
Paula,
unplanned. That was totally
unplanned.
You just put a line right there, and just put a little bookmark
I know.
and exactly where it is.
Something huge has to happen at this moment. But yeah, it's interesting to, kind of decipher pacing for different genres, different things. But yeah, it's there's the end of Act 1. Oh, Act 3, that was weird.
And
I
think
can just see it all as a movie.
No, and I'm the same way, and I have an easier time watching something like a movie or even a TV show than I do when I'm reading, especially because I do beta as much as I do, and I've done developmental editing and proofreading for people, that I can't ever really turn that off. So it's hard to not to like just sit back and take just as a passive reader versus someone who's expected to give input. And it's a little different when I'm reading and I know I'm going to interview the author, because then I'm thinking, oh, I can talk to them about that. So that's at least something that's engaging my brain. But I do find that if I'm just going to be listening to something or reading, it's easiest if I'm listening to it, because then it is as close to a movie and I'm just having somebody talk to me, and then I'm less likely to be taking apart the sentence structure or anything like that and going, stop, put down the highlighter, just listen.
Well, I think that's
enjoy.
okay. You know,
Nobody
Allison,
asked
you're
for
at
your
a point
opinion.
now. You should for fun, you should do at least one manuscript without any beta readers, and just trust your gut and see what you get.
What do you mean? Like me do it without any beta readers? Like
Yeah,
me write it
just
and not.
write.
Oh no,
write
I'd
it
have
without
riots on my
any
hands.
feedback.
I'd have riots on my hands for people. I have one right now who's like, "Do you have more?" I'm like, "You know, I've written 300 words. Are there more?" No, I don't have more yet. That they're waiting for daily things, like I'm Charles Dickens in a newspaper, and they're hoping I'm getting more words. So if I stopped that, I would have junkies protesting in the street.
You should try it.
Where are my
It feels like
words?
they're.
I know.
But they're driving you, and that's not what it should be. It should be
Oh
your
no, I don't
creativity.
mean no. I beta for other people, not the other way
Allison
around.
beta.
I'm not.
Oh,
I
okay,
don't have.
okay.
I'm talking about me. I'm always reading for other people, so that
And
Okay.
I'm one of the people that's like, Allison, stop reading for all these other people
Exactly.
and start just reading for fun.
It's like, or just charge everybody when you do it, because I do have some that I've done on that level as a developmental editor, but other people who are just fellow writers, and then you do swaps, and so I'm doing that. But there are some who I've multiply, done 2 or 3 for them, and they haven't read for me, so it's like there's kind of a scale going there. But I enjoy doing it, so I don't really mind doing that. But then turning that off and saying, okay, this one, no one's asking for your feedback, just read the book. Like, can I give my feedback anyway?
That's hard. I just don't have the patience that what do we read during the course of the year as podcasters? I maybe read 60, 70 books, and it gets, for some of them, you pick up the style so quick, you say, okay, I know where this is going. And then you start flipping. But that's where you really appreciate the great writers. This is another Marie Sutro shout out, but I cannot, when you think, and you know how this goes, you're reading along, you're saying, okay, I know where this is going. I'm going to skip a few pages. That's when Marie hits you right between the eyes with some amazing, like Megan Abbott level prose that just blows your mind.
Megan Abbott. Sorry.
Yeah, those are the ones I don't ever want to have to skim. If I have to skim, it's not a good thing, because I read quickly enough that I wouldn't skim unless the text is so dense that my brain's just like, I'm not deciphering what's supposed to happen there. And then I'm just pulling a line here or there. And I very rarely do that, because I will read enough either through eyeballs or through ears that I don't need to do that. But sometimes I do listen to things at a little faster pace just to get, sometimes just narrators are slow. I mean, Terry, we would never speed up if you're narrating a book. I'm sure your pace and cadence.
I hope you would.
On point. Are you a slow talker? Are you giving us William Shatner pauses? Because if you do that, I've done that. The first time I had to speed one up, there was a guy who would do all these pauses, and I was just like, the pauses, they are killing my sense. I just stop.
Yeah, you got to edit them out. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a family of storytellers, and I was very lucky in elementary school that our librarian was an absolute, Academy Award-ish storyteller. So I learned a lot about what good storytelling sounds like. And you really you're acting, you're taking on those characters. And part of what happens even in dialogue, it's easy to forget when you're writing, is that these people are thinking. When you're writing that sentence, they're going to have in the middle of that sentence a revelation, and you have to be able to not only write it so it works, but if you're narrating, you stop in the middle of the sentence because you go, holy crap, I just figured this out.
Oh, light bulb hit.
I know.
You can't gloss over it.
And guys like Scott Brick and Andy Arndt, my 2 favorites, they are so good at that. I mean, and they can do it cold. We were doing at BoucherCon in Minneapolis. Andy and I were on a panel, and we each read a sentence, and they gave it to us like out of the blue. We had to read it, and it was as if she'd practiced it for 20 minutes. You got all the nuance and everything when she's reading it cold, and that's that to me is part of the Yeah, I mean, but it's like anything, right? It's like dancing for you, Jennifer. I mean, the more you do it, the better you get. Minutes make the
Exactly.
star.
And it's like,
So,
stretching into it, breathing into a line. It's like, what we say in dance. But like, I come from a theater background. That's what I went to school for. I did professional theater. And so when I write, especially when I write dialogue, I end up writing it the way I would do it as an actor. And then editors and my agents like, you can't add all of the ums and the, like take it out because that slows down the reading process. And I'm just like, but that's how they would talk.
How we do it.
But that's how, so, and then I'm just like, because when like I add them in, because when I'm writing, when I'm like editing, I speak it out loud and I do my stupid accents.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and then I'm like, oh, there's another comma here. And then the sentence makes no sense visually or structurally, but then I'm like, but say it out loud. And they're like,
but it doesn't.
Then you stop and like Tubby's over in the corner looking at you going, who is that person?
oh yeah. He lets out
Mommy's
some
lost
little
her
growl.
mind.
Oh no, mommy's lost. I know. He's staring at me right now because he knows
She's doing
like
those
once a
voices
week.
again.
Once a week I do this thing where it's just like a light shines at my face and I just talk to no one because he can't hear you guys.
Tubby's like,
Yeah. Have you ever shared your books with your shrinks? I always give the first one to my psychiatrist.
Oh
This is for
God.
you.
Well, I don't see anyone anymore. Probably should.
Oh my God.
I
oh,
was
that's really a sign.
I was
It's like
I
having a
have very-
tax preparer. You need to have a psychiatrist. Everybody needs one.
Pandemic through a lot of things for a loop there.
Yeah, I have a very good friend who is a psychotherapist, and when I was using beta readers, she was one of my beta readers always.
Yeah.
Again, because I just wanted to make sure I was getting the nuance of trauma or
Oh, you write trauma so well.
psychosis.
Oh my gosh.
I write
It just
trauma
hurts.
really well.
I was gonna say, I think your genre is just called trauma.
I know.
When the-
I mean,
Yeah.
even
When
my,
the knife goes
even
in,
my, like,
when the skin falls off the
crime-ish-
face, I feel like it's falling off of my face too. So that's how good you are.
Thanks.
Thank
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, I think. I can't see how long we've been going because the
46. We're almost at
46.
47.
All right. Then we've gone past
How
our
long
time,
should we go?
Terry.
What's the rules here? I'm trying to remember. I get this happens to me when I'm watching. I get lost in the show.
Yeah,
That's how you know it's a good show.
We don't have rules. We usually tell guests, anywhere between 35 and 40-ish minutes, and then it's usually ish. So
Yeah.
we go ish.
But usually, around 45 is our sweet spot. We did have an episode with Josh Mallerman that cranked in at close
It
to
was
2
over an hour.
hours.
It
It
2 hours.
Wow.
it was like an hour
I
and
can
a
see how
half.
that would work. Yeah.
But we
were
all
having
had a
drinking.
bottle of bourbon with us.
It
So
was
it was
refilling.
just
He would get up and go to the
refilling.
bathroom when he needed to. We're like, it's fine. It was a Sunday. None of us
It
had
was a
anywhere we needed
Sunday.
to
It was
be.
insane. Like, and by the time we were done, we were all just like, "What did we just do?"
I think
but
we spent half the
anyways.
time talking about Bridgerton, so we were really
Yeah, we talked
on
about Bridgerton.
point.
Oh yeah.
We were very much
sure.
on point on that one.
Yeah.
So Terry, thank you so much for
You're
being
very
here.
welcome.
with
Yeah,
us
thanks for having me
today.
on. I really appreciate it.
I know.
Great.
We've been so excited to talk to you. Everyone, Terry's book came out yesterday, Chasing Karma. It is the third novel in the Jessica Ramirez thriller series. So start at the beginning, work your way up. And Terry's working on lots of things, secret projects, things under different names.
I was to say
Okay.
that the website is scrolling below, so follow it there to find
Yeah,
everything
there it is.
beyond
There it is
beyond just
there.
what we can do the shout out.
Exactly.
And
Because we didn't
Maria's
even
starting
really
out
get to talk about the audio narration that much. Oh well. Next time.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. That
And-
that was like an unexpected joy to do that. I mean, I did one book for my friend Donna, and that led to I'm on number 12 right now. So
You're
it's
Just
like,
one.
oh,
amazing.
I
It's
guess
like the Pringles.
Yeah.
Just
Man
one.
of-
12
man
later.
of many
Well, books, yeah.
careers.
And it's
Oh, so-
it's much better when they're books that I really like that I can get into. I've done a couple which have been like not as good as I expected, but that's what our role is.
Tell us after the show
Yes.
which ones those are.
I know.
Actors. Yeah,
As
you got to
actors, just going,
make them
this
sound
one's
good.
great too.
Yeah.
So So Terry, thank you. Everyone who's watching us live, thank you so much. If you're watching us on the replay, thank you as well. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit like and subscribe. Next week, our guest is, I always say her first name wrong.
Kyla Zhao.
Kyla Zhao with the Fraud Squad, which I just love that title so much because I like rhymes. Makes me feel like a rapper. Word up.
We are not rappers at all.
Nope, that was really bad.
You're like, no, we don't rap.
Nope. On that sad note, thanks again, everyone, and we will see you all next week. Bye.